I'm sorry, if you go into YouTube and you just type something like the woman that was giving Xanax to her chimpanzee or something like that, you'll find it. But watch the entire video and you'll be like, wow. It's one of those things that, oh, and then there is testimonials from the woman after she had, I don't know, 25 surgeries, because she actually was alive. She didn't die, but she had so many surgeries. And
Wow.
it's one of those videos that you're like, okay, yes, I'm glad Elga mentioned this. Very strong though. Okay, so that's why you want to use an stress interview with firefighters, police officers, air pilot controls, and 911 operators, definitely. Okay, the type of interview that requires the least training for effective use is the type of interview that requires the least training for effective use is which one do you think?
Structured.
A structured interview, right? This is when we just give the supervisors who are going to be helping us or the managers this structured questionnaire with all the questions already prepared in advance. And we tell them, all you have to do is ask those questions. Do not deviate from those questions. Just stick to that questionnaire, the easiest one. There you go. Okay, let's talk about a PEO, Professional Employee Organization, especially SHRM candidates. And we need to make sure that everyone feels comfortable with a PEO. We talk about this week.
A PEO is for the smaller businesses that don't have enough people to handle all of the HR duties, such as payroll, benefits, discipline issues. A good example is if you're familiar with Insperity, they handle that. It's kind of like a third party person for you.
Excellent. Very good. Anybody else wants to add anything? PEO.
I guess they are like an outsourced service who will handle everything for you, not only.
Yes. Thank you, Rashmi. I want everybody to remember that, like an outsourcing company. Okay. I want you to remember that outsourcing company where you're going to be outsourcing basically your employees. Yep. Excellent.
And you also want someone else to share the risk.
Yes. Very good.
And you get more benefits with a PEO because you're under their umbrella. So cheaper benefits, workers' compensation, all of that. So you are benefits from being part of a larger.
The rates, right. It's not that they're going to be that they're going to get lower quality of benefits or anything like that. It's just that it's going to cost less money to the employer because, again, it's for a smaller organization. So maybe instead of trying to negotiate good rates for medical insurance for 10 people, 20 people, here's a PEO who is going to be able to negotiate, rates for thousands of employees. So we're going to have access, to more plans and better rates. So it's going to be beneficial for the organization. Again, for smaller organizations. They're very, very common. So a lot of companies that are doing that, and I know HR professional that they said this is where I work, or this is where I used to work, or this is where I'm working right now for a PEO. Okay, let's talk about some external recruiting methods. Let's bring some, at least 5 external recruiting methods. External.
So social media?
Social media, absolutely. That's a good one. Yeah.
Agencies?
Agencies, yes. Third-party agencies. Yes, what else?
Referrals, employer
referrals. Okay, yes, what else?
Trade unions or labor unions.
Credit unions, labor unions, very good. What else?
Oh, non-traditional.
Non-traditional labor pools, very good. What else?
Educational locations.
Educational, very good.
Job fairs.
Job fair. How about
walk-in?
Walking, absolutely. Some companies they still take walking. Excellent, very good. Ooh, I put it over here. There you have it. Excellent. Okay, employment branding. Let's start with what is employment branding. Let's talk about employment branding. This is good. What is employment? How would you define Your company has employment branding. What does that mean?
Establishing your company as a company of choice to work for. Like you have good benefits, you treat your employees right, and people want to come work for you. And they don't want to leave when they have a job.
So that is correct. So employment branding is positioning your organization as an employer of choice. Okay. So again, the benefits that you're going to have, a lot of benefits. You think you're going to have problems filling those openings that you have? No, you're going to have a lot of people applying for those jobs because again, your company has a good reputation as a good employer. So people want to work for you. So you won't have any problems filling those openings. You are going to get a lot of employee referrals. Okay. You're not going to have hardly anybody rejecting your offer when you call them. No, why would they reject the offer? They're super excited to be working in your company. Now that they're working there, they're going to do an excellent job because they want to stay working in the company. So just like employee engagement, you're going to have, better customer service, higher productivity, hardly any absenteeism, hardly any turnover because you have employment branding. How can you create that employment branding? What do you have to do to be recognized as an employer of choice? What do we do in our company so we can have employment branding? Let's talk about some of those things that we can do.
Have diversity.
Have diversity, absolutely. Everyone wants to work in a company where there is diversity and that there's going to be inclusion. Absolutely. I don't want to work for a company that is not going to value me as being somebody who is different. Very good. What else?
Competitive pay.
Competitive pay? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Competitive pay and benefits.
What about surveys and Google ratings and things like that?
Very good. Absolutely. Yes.
Environmentally conscious.
Yes. People want to work for companies that are going to be responsible within their communities, with the environment. I'd rather do business with an organization that I know is giving back versus doing business with an organization that is all about taking the money and not giving back. What else? How about a company where you can see a lot of opportunities to move up? Would you like to work there? Yep. So there's a lot of different ways that you can create that good reputation where people want to work in the company. Now, what is the employee value proposition? EVP. What is EVP?
It's the rewards that you can offer compared to what other employers can offer.
The EVP is going to answer two very important questions. What are those questions?
It's what's in it for me. It's you selling yourself to your applicant.
But what are those two important questions that the EVP is going to answer?
Why do talented employees want to work for this company? Why do they want to stay? These talented
people. Exactly. Very good. Yep. So EVP, employee value proposition, is the foundation of employment branding, which is going to answer those two questions, right? So why would a talented person wants to work in that company? And why would a talented person wants to stay working in that company? Because of the employment branding, because of what you're offering to your employees that they see as a value working in that company. Okay. What is an RJP? What is a realistic job preview? This is important. Realistic job preview.
When you take a possible candidate to see the actual job, like for example, in an interview, you can take them to the area where they are going to be working so that they can see the real conditions of the job.
They also ask other employees if they like their job and what they do on a day-to-day basis, so they get the interaction with other employees.
So it's about being honest, right, with the candidates and describing how the job is going to be and talking about all the factors of the job, the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty, how everything is going to be. And yes, we can take that on the floor. I used to do those realistic job preview for those positions, like working third shift, positions where you will have maybe high turnover. So I used to take employees and show them around, When I started working my first job ever, like 80 years ago, my first job working in HR, Human Resources Manager for Target, we used to have high turnover on third shift. The employees that were unloading the trailers and stocking the shelves at night. So I used to do interviews. Can you imagine at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? Yep. I used to get in there at that time because I was like, okay, they're applying for a position working third shift, then they should be able to come at whatever time. And then I will take them on the floor and show them what they will be doing at that time of the morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Look, this is what you will be doing. Do you see yourself doing this? Okay. Yes or no? Okay. So now what are the advantages of RJP?
Well, the candidate knows what they're signing up for because they've seen it in action.
What else?
It relieves that post-entry stress because they know what they're getting into. And also our turnover because of that. They know exactly what's going to happen.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yep. We got to be honest with them. Let's not tell them because they mentioned that, oh, they don't like overtime. Well, let's not tell them that, oh, don't worry, there's not going to be any overtime. Hardly any overtime when you know that every day you're working a lot of overtime, 2, 3, 4 hours of overtime. Let's not tell them that, oh, this is a very stable company when you know that next month you're going to be acquired by another company, right? Let's not tell them that there's a lot of opportunities to move up in this company when you know, poor thing, they're going to be stuck on this position for the rest of their life, right? So we got to be honest. We got to be honest with the candidates. And we do this, remember, during the interview process. We're not going to do this during the orientation. Oh, I'll tell them how the job is going to be during the orientation. You're too late, right? The person already got the job and they're already in orientation. Now, if you're going to be honest for the first time, don't be surprised when they're not coming back from lunch, right? To your orientation. That's what we want to be honest. Some companies, they will have the applicants as they're waiting for the interview. They will have them in a little room, like watching a video, watching the employees as they're working in the different departments. So they have an idea how the job is going to be. Very important to do this. Okay, let's talk about some interview biases. These are unconscious bias that we have. So biases, errors, or things that we commit during the interview. We will see some of these errors next week as we go over human resources development, training and development, and we're going to be looking at performance evaluation. Some of these biases, these errors that are committed during the interview, we're going to find some of these ones also being committed on performance evaluation, like this one, the halo, the horn effect. This is a good one to know for the exam because it's not just that we commit this in the interviews, but also on performance evaluation. So somebody explain the halo or the horn effect on interviews.
It's basically when you already know the candidate, like maybe one of the interviewers already knows the candidate because in school they were in the same fraternity. So there's a bias towards liking the candidate.
Not necessarily that we know the candidate.
Halo, you're focusing on a strong point.
Okay, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, say that again, Lori.
Halo, you're focusing on a strong point. So you value that, whatever that is that you're focused on. Maybe they went to a certain school or they speak really well. And so you're going to score them higher because of that strong point. Yeah. Versus the horn effect, everything is unfavorable based on one trait.
Correct. Okay. So the halo, yep, very good, Lori. So basically with the halo is you're going to be, like you said, focusing on one strong point, one strong area, maybe something that you saw on the resume that they're very good at. Maybe as you're asking questions, they seem to be very strong at one particular area or one particular function that you value very highly. And then you said, okay, they're going to be great. Oh, yes, I want this person. You gave them a halo. Okay. And then basically it doesn't matter. Maybe the other questions and the other areas and the other functions, they're not that great, but you already convinced yourself based on one strong area, one strong point that this person is going to be great. Okay. And the horn effect is the opposite. maybe one area that they're not very strong, one question that they didn't answer correctly, one point or something that they're not very strong, but you value this point, this factor very, very highly. And you said, no, they're not gonna be good because they're not good at this, okay? Versus everything else, they may be really good, but no, you already convinced yourself they're not gonna be good. I don't want this person because they're not good at this particular area. You gave them the horn effect. These are biases. We cannot just go for one point, okay? We need to look at everything that is in the job. So the halo, the horn effect on the interviews. We will see the same concept again on the performance evaluation. Think about a manager that is doing a performance evaluation and they focus on one strong area that the employee is doing, just one strong area. And they said, oh, this person is going to be a 5, maybe 5 being the highest, between 1 and 5. Oh, they're going to be a 5. And the other areas, the other functions, they're not that good. No, you already convinced yourself this person is doing excellent based on one strong point. Or the horn effect, they are not doing good in one particular area. And you value that area very highly. And you said, no, this person is going to be a 2. At 2, they're not doing a good job. And maybe the other functions, they're really doing good, but you let one area kind of overshadow everything else for the good or for the bad. Okay, halo horn effect. This is important for the exam. Okay. How about the first impression error? Just like it sounds. Remember, a lot of things on the exam is going to be exactly what it sounds like. The first impression error in interviews. What is that?
That's when you've already made your mind up about the candidate when they first walk in the door.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you heard something that said, ooh, a good recruiter can tell within the first 8 seconds that this is going to be a good candidate? My God, that is so wrong. That is so wrong. We cannot just go for the first impression. Okay, gotta give the applicant an opportunity. What about if this is the first time that the person is applying for a job and they're very nervous, they're very intimidated by the first, the first time that they're interviewing, and you already said, no, I don't like how they shook my hand. I don't like the way that they look at me, First impression error. You gotta give them enough time. Sometimes people said, this person is so bad, I'm just gonna give them a 5-minute courtesy interview. I'm just gonna ask a couple of questions, and in 5 minutes, I'm just gonna let them go. Versus somebody that you typically do a real interview, that you conduct the interview for, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes. This person, you're just gonna do a courtesy interview because your first impression was not very positive. Now, that first impression, glad that I remember, could be positive or negative, okay? Doesn't have to be just negative. It could be positive, but you're going by your first impression. That's not right, okay? This is why these are things that we need to be aware. These are unconscious bias that we need to be aware of. And I usually see these unconscious and errors, unconscious bias on people that they really don't have a lot of experience. Yeah. How about the similar to me error on interviews? Similar to me error.
Is when you think that the candidate looks is really like you, and you think that maybe that person is gonna be good just because it's has a lot of your characteristics.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You want to hire people that has similar characteristics like you. She looks like me, then she's probably as good as I am. Okay, similar to me error. Have you gone to maybe...
On that one, it's not, is it just physical, or is it like, okay, they love spreadsheets, they're a lot like me, they're gonna do good?
It's usually with personal characteristics, okay? It's usually with personal characteristics. Because the first impression could be like, oh, I just noticed in the interview, I just noticed on the application that, or in the resume, that they graduated from Florida International University like I did. So I already like them, first impression, right? This is more like looking for similar characteristics, okay? more for similar characteristics. And you're thinking, she looks like me. She sounds like me. Her is just like mine. Oh, her makeup is just like my makeup. Okay, so you're looking for people that are similar to you. Sometimes, I don't know if you have gone to like certain businesses and all of a sudden you walk in and you're like, okay, this is weird. It's like everybody looks the same in this place. What do you think happened? Everybody looks the same. And then you see somebody else coming that also looks like everybody else. And then they have a little tag that says manager of the store. And it looks just like everybody else. The similar to me error. Okay. Unconscious bias that we need to be aware of so we can minimize and not let this unconscious bias are called shortcuts. So we cannot let these shortcuts, overtake the process. Okay, this is a good one. I'm gonna say big A+ on this one, golden nugget, okay? The contrast sequencing effect is also gonna happen on the performance evaluation. Which one is this one? Contrast sequencing effect.
When you compare one candidate from one interview to the next one, or with before that you interview.
Okay, so I'm gonna say, Armando, but what's wrong with comparing one candidate to another candidate? It's okay to compare. So comparing, it's okay, but there's a problem that we do as we're comparing, okay? So when you see contrast, think about comparing. But you're gonna say comparing one candidate to another candidate, there's nothing wrong, but there's something wrong here with this effect, with this error, with this unconscious bias.
I guess.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that when you interview one, like say a weak candidate, then you interview like a strong candidate, then the strong candidate seems even more stronger.
Correct. There you go. That's the problem, because contrast sequencing, where we are comparing, that's contrast. Sequencing is like one after the other, like in a sequence, right? So it's okay to compare one candidate to another candidate, but the problem here is, okay, let's say that you interview a candidate and it's an average, maybe it's a 3, right? Between 1 and 5, think about a 3, an average. And then the next candidate is a little bit stronger. So maybe this other candidate should be a 4. That should be the accurate score, 4. So this is a 3. This one does a little bit better, it's a 4. But then the interviewer, the recruiter, starts comparing these two. And it says, you know what? As a matter of fact, this other candidate, no. I'm not going to make them a 4. I'm going to make them a 5. Because when I compare this person to this one, he is actually so much better. So forget about a 4. I'm going to make him a 5. That's the problem. When you're going to have the next candidate being a little bit stronger, you're going to make a comparison, which it may look, that the stronger candidate, it's a lot stronger than what they should be. Okay. So you need to be very factual, very objective. This person is a 4. Okay, well, good. That's a 4. Don't change the score because you are comparing them to a weaker candidate and make them a 5. Okay. That's the problem. Same thing with the performance evaluation. Okay. You do a performance evaluation for one employee. And again, it's a 3 average. The next performance evaluation is a candidate that is a little bit better than this average candidate. Okay. So, employee, I'm sorry. So it should be a 4. But then you said, no, as a matter of fact, compared to this other employee who is doing an average job, I'm going to make this employee, instead of a 4, I'm going to give them a 5. I'm going to give them the maximum outstanding performance evaluation. He may not be outstanding. He may be better than the 3, a 4, but not a 5. But due to the comparison, you compare a stronger candidate to a weaker candidate, and then you made them look stronger because of your unconscious bias. Okay.
Does it also happen if you make someone look weaker because of someone that's stronger?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, very good. So this one is a 3, this one is a 4. and you decide, you know what? No, I'm going to make this one a 5. And you know what? As a matter of fact, I'm going to make him a 2. That's not right, okay? We got to be objective when we're scoring individuals. It's okay to compare one to the other, okay? But not allow that comparison to influence and make somebody look stronger or weaker than what they are. That's the problem that we need to avoid, okay? Good point. Explain cultural noise. Cultural noise. What is cultural noise?
This telling us what we want to hear.
The manager is getting what they want to hear from the applicant.
Yep, give me an example.
For example, if the manager says this position is a people-focused position, and we need somebody who is a team player, who knows how to bring people together, and the applicant says, well, I am a great team player and I know how to bring teams together, that applicant is telling the manager or the interviewer what they want to hear, and it may not actually be that person.
Exactly, exactly. Yep. The failure to recognize that the candidate is just giving you the politically correct answer that you want to hear. Very good. Cultural noise. What is validity? And I know that we are like, we already covered validity since the beginning. Yeah, but I moved the slides, and I used to have validity in this section, and then I moved it to strategic business management. But I said, I'm going to leave this over here so we can always review validity. So let's talk about validity. What is validity? These are reliability, and validity is something that everyone needs to feel comfortable with.
It's when the tool measures what is intended to be measured.
Give me an example. When you said, when it measures, when an instrument measures what is intended to measure, which is correct. That's the definition that we need to know of validity. When an instrument measures what is intended to measure. But let's try to understand that with an example.
For instance, the test, we are going to go through SPHR, PHR, whichever one it is. It has reliability and it has validity, because you can take it many different times or take the different tests that are available, and you're going to get very similar results.
That's reliability.
So it is valid because it is measuring our knowledge, human resources knowledge.
Exactly.
So if we're getting very similar results all the time, then that means that the knowledge that we've been tested on is valid knowledge.
Okay. So if we give this PHR, SPHR-CP, and SCP to an engineer, okay, does it have validity for the engineer?
No, because the person doesn't have that content, validity. They don't know the knowledge. They don't have the knowledge, the skills, or the abilities for this test.
Correct. I want to give the PHR, SPHR-CP, and SCP to the IT person. Does it have validity for that person?
No.
No, it doesn't. Now, let me ask you this. We give a PHR, SPHR-CP, or SCP to an engineer, and we already know that doesn't have validity. It doesn't measure what is intended to measure for that person. Okay. Now, I'm gonna give that engineer to PHR, to SPHR, to CP, to SCP. Okay. Are those scores going to be? Are those tests going to be reliable?
Yes, because he doesn't know, so that he's probably going to score really low on all of them.
Exactly. Okay. So if they do have reliability, because we know that all these HR exams have reliability, okay, and validity. So it doesn't have validity for the engineer. They will have validity for an HR professional, okay, but they are going to be reliable. the scores on the 2 PHR and the scores on the 2 SPHR and the scores on the 2 CPs and the 2 SCPs are going to be very similar because they have reliability, okay? But validity is when you measure what is intended to measure, okay? So for example, if I give a typing test to an administrative assistant, is it gonna have validity?
Yes.
Yes, because it measures what is intended to measure, correct. So what are the 4 different types? Well, actually 3 different types of validity, and then there's a little bit more than that. What are the different types of validity?
Test, retest.
Call them the 3 C's.
Content validity, construct validity, and criteria related validity.
Okay, what does content validity is going to measure?
KSAs.
KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. What is construct or construct validity going to measure?
Traits, personality.
The traits, personality. How about a criterion related validity? What is that?
It's going to be predictive and concurrent.
Okay, but what does criterion related validity means? I know that there's those 2 types, predictive and concurrent. When the
Positive correlation.
Positive correlation, absolutely. Okay, there's going to be a link, there's going to be a correlation between the assessment, the instrument being used, and the actual performance. So if the person does good on the assessment, okay, they are going to perform good on the job. If the person does poorly on the assessment, okay, they're gonna do poorly on the job. There's a positive correlation, there's a link, there's a connection between the instrument being used and the actual performance. And then we know that we have predictive criterion related validity and concurrent criterion related validity. What's the difference? Predictive criterion related validity versus concurrent criterion related validity.
Predictive is the future and concurrent is at this
I'm sorry, what
time.
was predictive? I'm sorry, Sally.
For the future. Something about the future, predictive. You're predicting something about the future in this testing.
Okay.
And then the concurrent is at this point in time.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So predictive. We give the assessment, we use the instrument first, and later on, we're gonna be able to correlate the performance to how they did on the instrument, on the assessment. So here's the assessment, we give them the instrument, we give them the test, for example, okay? And then maybe they did very good on the assessment. Okay, perfect. Later on, okay, we're gonna be able to correlate the actual performance. So this assessment is going to predict how the person will perform later on the job. So if they did very good on this assessment, we can predict that they're going to be superstars on the job. Or if they did very poorly on the assessment, we can predict that they're going to be doing very poorly on the job. That's predictive. You give the assessment, you use the instrument first, and later on, you correlate the actual performance to the instrument, to the assessment. And then concurrent, which is at the same time, right? We use the instrument, the assessment, and then at the same time, we correlate the actual performance. Remember my example with the firefighters, right? So here's a test, an assessment on how you're gonna handle this situation. And we give this to the firefighters. And now we're gonna ask them, show me the performance. So as soon as they do this, they answer this question, now they have to show you the performance. Okay, well, just like you described how you're gonna handle and take care of this fire that is happening on this house on the 3rd floor, and there's a little kid on the 3rd floor, so you need to go and rescue the kid. Okay, now that you answered, good, now show me the performance. Yep, there's the hose over there, go up to the 3rd floor and put out the fire and save that little kid, okay? So you are using the assessment and you are correlating the actual performance at the same time. That's why it's called concurrent, okay? Everybody, make sense?
For something like the driver's license test, there's 2 parts. So it's one, the written one, a predictive, and the driving test, a concurrent.
Okay, well, again, if they are if they are taking the test and then they are going to go and do the drive, if they're taking the actual written test and then they're gonna go and take the driving, the actual physical driving, then that would be concurrent. I like that example. So first, go ahead and do the written, okay? And then go ahead and do the actual driving. So that would be concurrent. Versus if you said, okay, first they're gonna take the assessment and maybe they'll come back next month and do the actual driving test. That's going to be more predictive, okay? But if they're taking it at the same time, I just took my 5 minutes ago, I just finished the written test. Now I'm ready to go and take the physical driving test. That's going to be concurrent. Good example. That makes sense? It's the fact that you're doing it together.
Yes.
Here's the assessment, okay? Here's the actual performance versus here's the assessment. Later on, we're gonna correlate the performance.
So maybe the, what do you call it before the license? The permit would be predictive, maybe.
There you go. Okay. Yep, you can see it like that. Okay. Now, remember that there's going to be a positive correlation. If they do good over here, then they're going to do good over here. It's just that instead of validating that they're going to do good on the performance, is either at the same time or later on. That's what makes it the difference. But they got to be a positive correlation. They do good over here, they do good on the assessment, they're going to do good on the performance. They do poorly on the assessment, they're going to do poorly on the actual performance. It's either, are we going to correlate those two at the same time or at different times? Everyone?
Thank you.
You're welcome. What's the difference between a cognitive test and an aptitude test? Difference between cognitive and aptitude test.
Cognitive is going to test someone's capabilities to do something, or their knowledge. Aptitude is going to measure their ability to learn something.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So cognitive is going to measure something that the person already knows, right? That's a cognitive test. You're going to assess, you're going to measure something that the person already knows. Remember my example using that we're going to hire an FMLA coordinator, and we want that this FMLA coordinator, we're going to put it on the posting that the person needs to have at least 3 years of experience on FMLA. Okay. So we're going to give this person an FMLA test. Number one, it has content validity because it measures the knowledge, skills, and abilities, right? Content validity. But also this is going to be a cognitive test because it's going to measure the knowledge that the person already has on FMLA. That's like cognitive. Like if you give me, Elga, I'm gonna give you a Spanish test, okay? Because you said that you speak Spanish. So let's go ahead and give you a test. That test for me is gonna be a cognitive test because it's gonna measure what I already know, okay? Elga, I'm gonna give you an employment loss test. Give it to me, thank you, okay? It's going to measure something that I already know, employment laws. Okay. Now, an aptitude test is going to measure the ability that the individual has to learn a new skill. And I'm always going to say, don't give me an aptitude test. Please do not. Okay. Because like I always said, I'm a very slow learner. I'm a thorough learner, but I'm a very slow learner. Okay. So an aptitude test is going to measure the ability to learn a new skill. When do you want to use an aptitude test, for example? We already know that we want to use a cognitive test to measure what the person already knows, as we're going to be hiring for a particular position. But for what position, why would you give an aptitude test to an applicant?
Maybe in an IT department.
Mm-hmm. In positions where things are going to be changing a lot. And maybe the person is an expert at something, but guess what? This is going to change. And we know that technology is always changing. So when you're going to hire people for IT, for example, they better do good on an aptitude test, you know, that they're going to have that ability the capability of learn new skills. Very good. Questions?
Elka,
Yes.
I have a question. When I just first graduated from college, I was going to be a fighter pilot. I was going to be in the Air Force. I was going to be a fighter pilot. And they did a lot of different tests. And one of the tests that they had me do was really kind of like video games. And would that be basically considered an aptitude test? Because it felt like they were testing motor skills of what I might have and how I might be able to handle an airplane or how that might be able to transfer over.
Okay, but that sounds also like a psychomotor test.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right? A psychomotor test. Your ability, your dexterity, you know, to handle something and push buttons and things like that.
Okay.
An aptitude is going to measure your ability to learn a new skill. How good are you at learning new skills? Like if you said, oh, I'm really good at learning new languages. Okay. So I may give you an aptitude test and see if it's true that you're good at picking and like right away in 3 months, you can be communicated in Italian, in German, in Spanish, your ability to learn new skills. I'm really good at, you know, for example, Mike, for example, he's probably very good at an aptitude test. You know, he's able to read something, Henry too, you know, again, look, people that with technology skills, okay, they're able to look at something, read something, and they're like, okay, I can do it. Not me. I'm gonna be like, I ask Mike every day, how do I do this, Mike? How do I go and post this on the website? And I already told you, Elga, like 10,000 times. Yeah, but I cannot find my notes. You know, I'm very, very slow at learning new skills. Now, once I get it, but it takes me a long time. Then what's gonna happen? Once I get it and I'm an expert, then they change it. Now we're gonna do it in a different way. Okay, that's me basically with technology. That's me with technology. Okay, so again, somebody that you're gonna hire for a position that is gonna be changing a lot, then you wanna give them an aptitude test, their ability to learn a new skill. Because what happened when you are a very slow learner and you're in a position that changes, continually changes, you're gonna get very stressed and overwhelmed, right? Because again, you're a very slow learner. That's me. That's totally me. Give me a cognitive test and I'll do great on something that I already know. But an aptitude test, I'll be like, no, thank you. Okay. Okay, assessment centers. We were talking about this morning. Everyone needs to feel very, very comfortable with assessment center because we all need to know this for the exams. It doesn't matter what exam, okay? Assessment center. So let's thoroughly talk about assessment center. And again, remember that you can basically say an assessment center is blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, and I go, okay, you got it. But are you really comprehending what you just said? Or are you just giving me the definition? Because if you're just giving me the definition, okay, that's not going to help you for the exam. Remember, these exams are not about, can you just give me the definition? It's good to know the definition because you're going to have some knowledge-based questions. Absolutely. Okay. But you're also going to have some situational questions where you're going to have to apply the knowledge. Okay. So as we explain a particular topic, we really need to understand what it means. Okay. So let's spend some time with the assessment centers. Okay. And then we'll talk about the advantages. But let's first start with an assessment center. Somebody that feels very comfortable explaining what an assessment center is and is not.
It's a group of individuals that usually qualify employees looking for leaders, by example. Is not a place, you know, is a group of people that are going to give some training for this.
Training? See what I'm saying?
No,
we're not. This is not training. We're not going to be providing training on an assessment center. This is not a training room. This is not a training session.
It's going to be no
process.
training. It's
They're
going
going to be
to
assessing.
Qualifying employees.
Did you hear what Sally just said? We're going to be assessing.
Assessing.
We're going to be evaluating. Okay?
And there are multiple assessors,
there's
multiple assessees, and multiple assessments.
What does that mean? That is correct. What does that mean that there's going to be multiple assessors, multiple assessment, multiple assesses? What does that mean?
You're gonna have rater validity with the multiple assessors. You want them all to agree.
Rater validity or rater reliability?
Reliability, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
It's a group of managers that assess a certain employees to see if they're able to manage for the future.
Okay. So I hear it's a group of employees, it's a group of managers, it's a group of employees, a group of managers. How about if we say it's a process?
That's what I'm going to say.
Go, Ruby, go.
Yeah, there's a process
So
you put people through when you identify your top performers and you want to prepare them now for future leadership role. You put them through that process where they are being assessed by different managers to determine their ability to move up into higher positions.
Correct. I look like a snake. I'm going.
It eliminates favoritism, and it's also the most expensive method.
Good. Okay. Okay, you're going into the second one. Hold on before we go into the advantages. But okay, so an assessment center, very good. It's a process. It's a method where we're going to be evaluating, assessing. That's why it's called an assessment center. We're going to be assessing. Okay, we're going to be evaluating a group of employees who supposedly they have the potential to be future leaders. Just picture that you are the HR director and you go to all your managers and you tell them, hey, I want everyone to submit 2 names of employees from each department that you think that have the potential to be future leaders. Everyone, if you don't have anybody that you want to recommend, then you don't have to. But if you have some people that have the potential, I want you to prioritize and rank them and give me the names of at least 2 people. Okay. This is just an example. I'm not saying that we're going to go and say, give me the name of 2 people. This is just an example. Okay. So the managers are going to give you names of people that they believe in the department that have the potential to be future leaders. Okay, so we're going to gather this group of people. It have to be a group of people. We're not going to be doing this for 1 or 2 people. It's going to be a group of people. I don't know, 10, 15. Okay. So we're going to gather this group of employees and we're going to put them through this assessment. This assessment may last several days. I don't know, maybe 3 days. It may last a week, maybe 5 days. And we're going to have this group of employees go through different activities for the whole 3 days, 5 days, whatever it is. We're going to have them as a group go through different activities. Activities that are typically performed by leaders, by managers. We're going to have them do some role playing. We're going to have them resolve some case studies and do some business games and do some in-basket activities. Hey, you have all this in your in-basket. You have 3 hours to move everything from your in-basket to your out-basket. How we want to assess how they're going to prioritize and delegate certain activities, right? These are going to be expensive method. You're going to have a group of managers, not this employees manager, a different group of manager, because we want to avoid favoritism. So we're going to have a group of managers. That's what we call multiple assessors, a group of managers that are going to be assessing these employees. You're going to have multiple assessors, multiple assessees, people that we are going to be evaluating, and multiple assessments, different types of activities. We're not going to have them just do one activity. We're going to have them do different activities. So you have multiple assessors, characteristics of an assessment center, multiple assessors, multiple assesses, multiple assessment. We're going to be evaluating these employees, right? And then the type of reliability. We want to use what is called rater agreement. Rater agreement is also known as inter-rater reliability. Rater agreement. When it's time to score and rate this group of people, we want these managers to use rater agreement or inter-rater reliability. We want them to come out with a rate that is going to be similar, consistent. Again, think about between 1 and 5. Here we are. We're going to be rating those employees. Okay. So let's start with Joseph. What do you think, Araceli? Between 1 and 5, what do you think, you know, that it should be the rate for Joseph? And Araceli says, oh, I think he's perfect. He's fine. No, he's a 5. And then I asked Lillian, what do you think, Lillian, you know, about Joseph? And Lillian said, no, I think he's not ready. I think he's a 1. And then I asked Rashmi, what do you think about Joseph? Oh, I think he's a 3. Okay, we're all over the place, right? Araceli says that he's a 5, Lillian said that he's a 1, and Rashmi said that Joseph is a 3. No, excuse me, assessors, excuse me, managers, you need to come out with a reliable, a consistent, a similar, a repeatable score. You need to use rated agreement, because we're not going to do anything if you want to say that one is a 1 and the other one says it's a 3, the other one. You all need to agree. You need to use rater agreement. Okay, so let's go ahead and agree that he should be a 3. Okay, perfect. Now let's go and we're going to assess, evaluate Betty. Okay, so Araceli, what do you think Betty is? I think Betty is like a 3.7. Okay, what about you, Lillian? What do you think about Betty? I think she's like a 3.5. What do you think, Rashmi? I think he's like a 3.6. Thank you. Okay, you are using rater agreement, inter-rater reliability. Okay, we're agreeing. So this is reliability. You're coming out with a consistent score, which is what we need. Okay, now these assessment centers are typically, I think it was Fabiola who was asking me earlier today, these assessment centers are typically used to evaluate, to assess, you know, employees' potential to become future leaders. We're not training them. That's why I want to make sure that this is not a training center. This is not, we're going to be training them. No, we're not training. No, we're not going to be paying this to be training people. No, what we want to do is we want to assess if they actually have the potential to be future leaders like their managers. That's what their managers told us, right? So we want to assess that and see if they have the potential to be future leaders. So we're going to be able to identify through this assessment, through this process, we're going to be able to identify who are those that really have the potential. We're also going to be able to assess and determine here what skill sets are missing. Maybe Joseph is really good at this, but he is missing some delegating skills. Okay. And you know what, Betty? Maybe she's really good at delegating, but maybe she needs some motivating skills. She doesn't really know how to motivate employees to act and do things. So we're going to be able to assess where the skill sets, where the training is missing on these individuals. Okay, makes sense, everyone?
Elga, Fabiola and I were talking about this. Is this just limited to when you're trying to assess?
Good.
I just want to give an example. So, you know, in my younger years, there was a time when I was interviewing with like accounting firms. And what they would do is after, you know, you had several interviews, they would call a group of people. They would give us a group discussion. Then they would put us in a presentation. Then they would interview us individually. So, and they called it an assessment center. So can you also use it in hiring?
That is correct. That's exactly what I was just telling Fabiola this morning. No, Fabiola? That is typically used. Assessment centers are
Yes, Olga.
are generally used, okay, to identify those employees that have the potential to be future leaders. But you can also use them, you know, for other positions, like I was mentioning to Fabiola earlier this morning. Maybe something that you could use to identify maybe some candidates that will have the potential to become HR, you know, maybe HR specialists. Maybe you have some employees in the company, you know, that maybe they took the APHR or they want to eventually become HR people. So you can assess them and see that. And so it could be used for other positions, but typically generally is for leadership positions. Okay. Now they can also be used to assess the potential of applicants. Yes, absolutely. Okay. They can be used also for the potential to see the potential on applicants. Remember, we're going through talent planning and acquisition on this section right here. We're talking about interviews right here. That's why we have also assessment centers here, because you can use assessment centers to identify the potential of the candidates, the applicants. Absolutely. So they can be used to assess the potential of applicants and to assess the potential of your employees. It could be used also for, like I said, for different positions, but it's typically generally used to assess leadership potential. Make sense? Yes? I think it was Rashmi. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now let's talk about advantages. I know somebody was already going into the advantages of assessment centers. Advantages. Remember, it's going to reduce favoritism. It's not that we're going to these employees, managers, and said, hey, who is ready to become a future leader? Who is ready? Who has the potential? Oh, Mary has the potential. Okay, well, let's put Mary through training to develop, you know, not an assessment center. Let's put her through a fast track training and develop her to become a future leader. Okay, hold on. You're just going for what the manager told you? Don't you know that the manager is very close friend with Mary? So maybe there's favoritism over here. So it's going to eliminate favoritism, because all we're asking the managers is to give us the names of those people that had the potential. And now we're going to have another group of managers who are going to be assessing them. They're going to be evaluating them. So it's going to eliminate favoritism. What else? What other advantages? Okay, I'm getting all the answers.
With probably succession planning.
Yeah. And like I also mentioned, remember that you can also evaluate and assess where the training skills are missing here. Okay. Now, here's something that I want everybody to write in their notes. Okay. Ready? Okay. Is an assessment center going to predict short-term or long-term performance, or both?
Both.
Both.
Want everyone to know that, please. Okay. Assessment centers are going to predict both short-term and long-term performance. Okay. Everyone. It's true, right? You put somebody through an assessment center, you identify who has the potential. That's why you're going to do several assessments. That's why this is going to be done for for several days, because we want to make sure who really has the potential, right? So they're going to predict short-term performance and also long-term performance. Absolutely. Okay, enough with the assessment centers. I hope that we got it. Please remember, this is not a training center. This is a method. This is a process where we're going to be identifying those employees who had the potential for those positions. We are identifying kind of like their weaknesses and their strength in there, and see they really have the potential. Okay. Explain the different types of background checks. Background checks. What are the different types of background checks that we can conduct?
So employee